My roommate stole $7,200 of my rent money to party at Coachella, so I made sure she'd come home to nothing. There was an eviction notice taped to my front door. 3 months of unpaid rent, $7,200. And every single dollar of it had passed through my hands, straight into hers. I'm going to tell you exactly how I made sure she'd find out what that felt like. My name is Libby, and I want you to understand something before I get into all of this. I am not a dramatic person. I don't do confrontation. I don't post about my personal life. I go to work, I come home, I cook dinner, I watch something on Netflix until I fall asleep, and I do it all over again the next day. I am, by every possible measure, the most boring 26-year-old alive. I split my groceries to the cent. I set 3 alarms. I reply to emails within the hour. I say all of this because I need you to understand that what I did, what I eventually did, was not something that came naturally to me. It was not my first instinct. It was not even my second. It was the thing I arrived at after every other decent, reasonable, patient instinct I had was completely and utterly burned to the ground. Sarah burned them down. I met Sarah 2 years ago through a mutual friend at a birthday party. She was the kind of person who fills a room, loud laugh, wild hand gestures, always in the middle of some story that had everyone leaning in. She was fun, genuinely fun, the kind that made you feel like the world had more color in it when she was around. When my old roommate moved out and I needed someone to fill the second bedroom, she was the first person I thought of. Everyone told me she was a good time. Nobody told me to check her bank account first. We signed the lease together 14 months ago. A 2-bedroom in a decent part of the city, not glamorous, but clean, close to the train, good natural light in the kitchen. $2,400 a month split down the middle. My half was $1,200. The way we set it up was simple. I Venmo her my share by the first of every month. She logs into the online tenant portal and pays the full amount to the landlord. She was already on the portal from a previous arrangement with the same landlord, so it made sense for her to stay on it. I never questioned it. Why would I? Every month for over a year, I sent $1,200 to @SarahB22 on Venmo, labeled it rent, like clockwork. Sometimes I send it 3 days early because I hate the anxiety of cutting it close. I have the transaction history going back to the very first month. Every single payment documented. I was not late once. That matters. Remember that it matters. I work in accounts receivable for a mid-sized logistics company. I leave the house by 7:45 and I'm usually back by 6:15. Last Tuesday was completely ordinary. Traffic was bad on the bridge. I stopped at the corner store for sparkling water and a granola bar. I walked the last 3 blocks home with my headphones in. I was thinking about whether I had enough eggs for an omelet. I almost didn't see it. The paper was folded and taped to the door at eye level, slightly crooked, the way something gets stuck when hands are moving fast. Official letterhead. Bold text at the top. I pulled it off slowly, the tape leaving a sticky ghost on the painted wood. 3-day notice to pay rent or quit. I read it 3 times standing in the hallway because the first 2 times my brain simply refused to process the words. The amount listed, $7,200. 3 months of total rent, October, November, December, unpaid. The notice stated that unless the full amount was received within 3 business days, formal eviction proceedings would begin. The granola bar hit the floor. I didn't notice. My first thought was that there had been a mistake, a clerical error, a technical glitch in the portal, something, because I had paid. I had paid every month. I had the receipts sitting in my Venmo history right there on my phone. I scrolled to them immediately, standing in that hallway, fingers going slightly numb. October 1st, $1,200. November 1st, $1,200. December 1st, $1,200. Sent. Accepted. Every one of them. Accepted by Sarah. That's when the first cold thread of something awful started to wind its way up through my chest. I let myself into the apartment. Sarah was on the couch, legs tucked under her, watching something with her AirPods in. She looked up, clocked my expression, and I watched something move across her face, quick, gone in a second, before she smiled and pulled one pot out. Hey, how was your, what is this? I held the notice out. My voice was steadier than I expected, like my body knew it needed to stay calm for what was coming. She looked at it, and the smile didn't fall, exactly. It just slid sideways, became something else. Oh, she said, yeah, so, I was actually going to talk to you about that. What followed was one of the worst conversations I have ever had in my life, and I have sat at hospital bedsides and signed divorce papers as a witness and talked a friend down from a ledge at 2 a.m. It was the worst not because she screamed or because I did. It was the worst because she was calm. Because she sat there on that couch with her hands folded in her lap and she explained to me, in a tone you might use to describe a minor scheduling conflict, that she had not paid the rent for 3 months, that she had taken my $1,200 every single month, put it in her personal account, and spend it. On what? I asked, and I heard the tremor start to work its way into my voice. She looked out the window. Coachella stuff, mostly. The silence that came after that was the loudest thing I have ever heard. Say that again, I said. I know how it sounds. Say it again, Sarah. She closed her eyes. I spent it on Coachella. VIP passes, the Airbnb, some outfits. I got caught up, Libby. I know that's not an excuse. $2,100. My voice cracked on the number. That's what we're talking about. My $2,100, which you took 3 separate times, which I sent you with the word rent literally written in the memo. And you spent it on festival tickets. I'm going to pay you back. When? I stepped closer, and I felt the heat rising through my neck, up behind my eyes, the edges of my vision going watery and strange. You owe me $2,100. I'm being evicted because of you. When, Sarah? That's when she actually started crying. And here's what I need you to understand. The tears were real. I believe that. She was genuinely upset. But the thing about genuinely upset is that it's not the same as genuinely sorry, and it took me another 40 minutes of that conversation to understand the difference. Because through every sob, every "I'm so sorry Libby," every "you're my best friend and I never meant for it to get this far," she never once offered to sell the tickets. Wait, let me stop right there, because I need to make sure you heard that. Coachella starts this weekend. She has VIP passes, luxury Airbnb already booked, outfits purchased, bags probably half packed. She is going. She was always going. And somewhere in that conversation, between the tears and the promises, the shape of what she was actually asking me became clear. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was asking for silence. Please don't go to the landlord, she whispered. Her mascara was tracking lines down her face and she grabbed my hand with both of hers. If you go to him, we both get evicted, Libby. Both of us. We're both on the lease. We both lose the apartment. Just give me until I get back from the festival. I'll figure something out. I'll get a loan. I'll sell things. I'll fix this. I swear to God I will fix this. I looked at her, really looked at her, at the girl who had taken my money, $1,200, and used it to book a luxury tent and a VIP wristband and whatever designer matching set she'd been eyeing on Instagram, while I worked my 9 to 6 and set my 3 alarms and sent my Venmo on time, every time, labeled rent, like that label meant something. I pulled my hand back. I need to think, I told her. I went into my bedroom and I closed the door, and I sat on the edge of my bed in the dark, and I thought about being 26 years old and having an eviction on my record, about having to call my mother and explain why I needed to move back home, about losing this apartment, my apartment, the one with the good light in the kitchen, the one I'd hung curtains in and painted the shelf in the bathroom, because my roommate wanted a wristband and a free pour cocktail in a climate-controlled tent in the desert. I picked up my phone. I called my landlord. His name is Gary. Gary has owned this building for 17 years. He is 62, ex-military, absolutely no nonsense, and the kind of landlord who actually fixes things when you submit a maintenance request. I had met him twice in person and exchanged maybe a dozen emails. He had no reason to trust me over Sarah, a co-signer on the same lease, but I had something Sarah didn't. Gary, I said when he picked up, this is Libby in 4B. I need to talk to you about the eviction notice, and I need you to know that I have bank records, I have Venmo transaction histories, and I have screenshots of every single month I paid my half. I can have them in your email in 10 minutes. I need you to hear me out. He was quiet for a moment. I'm listening, he said. I talked for 11 minutes. I did not cry. I sent the documents before I hung up. He called back 40 minutes later. I've looked at everything you sent me, Gary said. His voice was flat in the way voices get when someone is controlling something very large and very hot underneath them. Your payments are documented. You held up your end. She didn't. A pause. I'd like you to come down to my office tomorrow morning. There are some options I want to walk through with you. I slept 4 hours that night, but when I did sleep, it was deep and completely still. The next morning, I sat across from Gary at his kitchen table. He lives in the building, first floor, with a coffee I didn't touch in my folder of printed bank statements. He had already spoken to his property attorney the night before. He walked me through what he'd confirmed. Sarah's name was the primary on the portal account. Every month, the system showed a payment initiated and then reversed, a trick that can look like a processing delay from the outside but registers as non-payment on the landlord's end. 3 months, $7,200. She's been manipulating the portal entries, he said, which isn't just a lease violation. That's potential fraud. The word fraud landed on the table between us like something solid. Here's what Gary proposed. Because my documented payments proved I had fulfilled my contractual obligation in good faith, and because Sarah was the one in breach, he had grounds to pursue a selective eviction, removing Sarah from the lease while preserving my tenancy. He would issue the formal notice to Sarah specifically for breach of contract and non-payment. At the same time, he would offer me the option to sign a new, solo lease at the same rate, contingent on a background and credit check, which he'd expedite. "You're not the problem," he said, and looked me directly in the eyes. "You never were." I passed the check. I signed the lease. Sarah left for Coachella on Thursday morning. I know because I heard her rolling her suitcase down the hallway at 8 a.m., heard her laugh into her phone at something, heard the elevator ding. I stood at my window and watched the rideshare pull up, watched her load a duffel and a hard-sided carry-on into the trunk, watched her get in, still on the phone, still laughing. She texted me from the airport. "I know things are bad right now, but I promise we're going to figure this out. Have a good weekend, okay? Black heart." I read it once. I put my phone face down. On Thursday afternoon, the locks were changed. I'd already asked Gary if I could pack up her room before the property management team came in to formally process her belongings. Her things were not mine to throw away. That has legal implications I wasn't about to touch, but I could consolidate them, stack them, move them to the curb in orderly boxes, which is exactly what I did. 4 hours of packing. I was meticulous. I folded things I didn't need to fold. I labeled boxes I didn't need to label. I think I needed to feel like I was doing something honest and careful in direct contrast to what she had done. Her sequined festival outfits. The receipt from the Airbnb still on her desk, $1,800 for 4 nights. The merchandise she'd bought at past festivals, all the lanyards and wristbands she'd strung across her mirror like trophies. I packed them all, carried them down, set them on the sidewalk by the door. As of right now, Sarah is somewhere in Indio, California. If the weather reports are right, it's 94 degrees and she is wearing something she bought with my money and dancing in the dust and taking photos for her Instagram story with the caption "Desert Magic Cactus Sparkles" or something like that. She doesn't know yet. Her key won't work when she gets back. The name on the lease isn't hers anymore. Her boxes will have been sitting on the sidewalk for 4 days. Gary's attorney has already drafted the small claims paperwork for the $7,200, plus legal fees and the cost of the locks, and it will be waiting for her as a formal served document. Gary made sure of that. And I will be inside, in my apartment, with the good light in the kitchen and the shelf I painted in the bathroom and 3 alarms set for Monday morning, because I am Libby, and I go to work, and I come home, and I do not steal from people who trusted me. She is going to call me when she lands. I already know it. She's going to be crying so hard she can barely get the words out, and she's going to say my name like a question, like I'm someone who can still be reasoned with, like there's a version of this where I feel bad for her. I blocked her number on Wednesday night. I keep thinking about that eviction notice. The way it looked taped to the door at a slightly wrong angle. The way my granola bar hit the floor and I didn't even notice. The way she said Coachella stuff, mostly like that was a category of expense a person could reasonably defend. I keep thinking about $1,200, $1,200, $1,200, the sound of my alarm at 6 a.m. and the train and the 9 to 6 and the granola bar and all the ordinary machinery of a life I was building, quietly and carefully, one Venmo payment at a time. She took that. She took it 3 times, and she spent it on sequins and sunscreen and VIP cocktails, and she looked me in the face and asked me to stay quiet about it so she could go do it one more weekend before she had to face any consequences at all. I don't feel guilty. I want to be very clear about that. I have sat with this every hour for the past 6 days and I do not feel guilty. I feel something else, something that doesn't have a clean name, something that lives in the space between grief and clarity. I lost a friendship. Maybe I lost it the moment she took the first $1,200 and decided not to say anything. Maybe it was never what I thought it was. But I have my apartment. I have my lease. I have my documented bank statements in a folder on my desktop, every one of them timestamped and labeled, because that's the kind of person I am. And she has a wristband and a box on the sidewalk and a court summons on its way. So I'll ask you this, and I genuinely want to know what you think. Was there a single moment, one moment, where I had another choice? Or did she make every decision for both of us the second she hit accept on that first Venmo and walked away to buy her tickets? Drop it in the comments. I'll be reading every one.
If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.